In the next two examples, we're going to calculate the duration and completion time of an infusion. So the word duration means how long. So how long will the infusion last? And then completion time means like at what time will the infusion be finished? Okay, so in the first example, it says that we have an order for normal saline 750 milliliters IV to infuse at 75 milliliters per hour. And it says that the IV started at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. At what time will it finish? Okay, so we're first going to figure out, first to find out how long the infusion, will take. Okay, so in other words, 750 milliliters is equal to how many hours? Okay, so that's how we're going to figure out the duration. Right, and once we have the duration of the infusion, we can figure out the time at which it will finish. Okay, so we're going to start with the 750 milliliters. Okay, and the only other piece of information that we have that's useful is the flow rate, which is 75 milliliters per hour. So we're going to use that to convert the milliliters into hours. So we're going to multiply by. Okay, so 1 hour. Okay, over 75 milliliters. Okay, so the units of milliliters will cancel. Okay, and remember the flow rate is 75 milliliters per hour. So that's like saying 75 milliliters per 1 hour. Okay, so that's why we put 1 hour in the numerator and then 75 milliliters in the denominator. Okay, so the units of milliliters cancel. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking 750 and dividing it by 75. Okay, that's going to give us 10. Okay, so the duration of the infusion is 10 hours. So it will take 10 hours for the infusion to finish. Okay, so now that we have the duration right, then now we can ask at what time will the infusion finish? Okay, so it would be helpful to have a clock in front of us to figure this out. Okay, although you can probably figure it out in your head. Okay, so if the time is 11 p.m., okay, and the duration is 10 hours, right? At what time will it finish? So it starts at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. Okay, so here's 11 p.m. So 1 hour would be 12 a.m. and then another hour 1 a.m. So that's 2 hours. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so 10 hours later, right, it would actually be at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. So the infusion will finish, okay, at 9 a.m. on Thursday. Okay, and that's the answer. Okay, so that completes the first example on the topic of calculate the duration and completion time of an infusion. Okay, so the next example says a 500 milliliter IV starts at 9 p.m. and runs at 33 drops a minute with a drop factor of 10 drops per milliliter. Okay, and the question is, at what time will it finish? Okay, so just like in the previous example, let's first find out how long this will take. So first, okay, find out, okay, how long the infusion will take. Okay, so again, so what did we start with? Did we start with the volume, with the flow rate in drops per minute, or with the drop factor in drops per milliliter? Okay, so in this case, we're given the amount of solution. Okay, the flow rate in drops per minute, and then the drop factor in drops per milliliter. Okay, so we're actually going to start with the amount of volume. Okay, and we're asking how much time that will take, so how many hours. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with, so 500 milliliters. Okay, and we want to turn that into hours. Okay, so since we can't use this just yet, we can't use the flow rate just yet. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use the drop factor, okay, to convert the volume in milliliters into drops, right? So 500 milliliters is how many drops. So this is where the drop factor comes in. So we're going to multiply that by. Okay, 1 milliliter, or actually 10 drops. So the other way around, so 10 drops. So the way that it appears here, so 10 drops in the numerator, and then 1 milliliter in the denominator. So 10 drops per milliliter is understood to be 10 drops per 1 milliliter. So that's why we have 1 milliliter in the denominator. Okay, so when we do that in the process, the units of milliliters will cancel. Okay, so we have 500 times 10. Okay, which is equal to 5,000. Okay, so it's equal to 5,000 drops. Okay, so with the number of drops, we can then convert that into minutes. We can convert that into a length of time in minutes. Okay, so we're going to take the 5,000 drops now, and we're going to invert, okay, the flow rate, okay, which is drops per minute. Okay, so what I mean by invert, right, instead of having 33 on top and then minutes on the bottom, right, we're going to have 1 minute in the numerator. Right, so in other words, I'm flipping this fraction over. So 1 minute in the numerator and the 33 drops in the denominator. Okay, which makes sense. Right, so we can eliminate the units of drops. Okay, so 33 drops per minute is understood to be 33 drops per 1 minute. Okay, so when we flip that around, we have 1 minute in the numerator and then 33 drops in the denominator. Okay, so essentially what we're doing is we're taking 5,000 and then dividing it by 33. All right, and that's going to give us 151.5 and so on. Okay, so let's go ahead and round that to the nearest whole number. So round it to the nearest whole number, that is 152. Okay, so that's equal to 152 minutes. Okay, so we have the duration of our infusion in minutes. Okay, earlier I said I wanted to convert the given volume of 500 milliliters into hours. Okay, so actually having the amount of time in minutes is fine. We don't need to convert that into hours. Okay, so we can leave it as 152 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and update this. Okay, so 152 minutes is the duration of the infusion. Okay, so in other words, it'll take 152 minutes to finish. Okay, so using that information, let's figure out the time it will finish. Okay, but the question is, right, how long exactly is 152 minutes? Okay, so you already know that there is 60 minutes in 1 hour. Okay, so in 1 hour, right, that's equal to 60 minutes. Okay, 2 hours is equal to 120 minutes. All right, and then 3 hours is equal to 180 minutes. Okay, so the question is, how many times will 60 go into 152? Okay, well, 3 times, it can't go 3 times because that's too big, because 3 times 60 is 180. All right, it'll definitely go 2 times, all right, because 2 times 60 is 120. Okay, so it's basically 2 hours and change. Okay, so basically 152 minutes, okay, is equal to 2 hours and change. Okay, so there's some number of minutes left over. Okay, so notice it's between 2 and 3 hours. Okay, so 2 hours and change. So 2 hours and a certain number of minutes. All right, so since we know that there are 120 minutes in 2 hours, right, we're going to do 152 minus 120, okay, which is, so minus, okay, so therefore, okay, the duration of the infusion, okay, in hours and minutes is 2 hours and 32 minutes. Okay, so remember the infusion started at 9 p.m. Okay, so 2 hours later would be 11 p.m. So 1, 2. Okay, so it's 2 hours and 32 minutes. So 2 hours later is 11 p.m. exactly. So add 32 to that. So then the infusion would finish at 11:32 p.m. Okay. So since the infusion started at 9 p.m., okay, it will be completed, okay, at 11:32 p.m. Okay, if you want a more straightforward way to do that, okay, essentially you can take 9 p.m. Okay, so 9 hours, 0 minutes. Okay, and then add to it 2 hours and 32 minutes. All right, so when you add those together, right, you get 11:32 p.m. So that's one way you can look at that. Okay, so then the question becomes, so like if we wanted to convert the 152 minutes into a time in hours and minutes, right? How could we do that with our calculators? Okay, so what you do is you take 152 and divide it by 60. Okay, so that's going to give you a decimal. Okay, so the whole number part, which is 2, represents the number of whole hours, which is 2, and then the 0.53333 with the 3 is repeating, right, is not quite a full hour, right? It's part of an hour. Okay, so we know it's 2 hours and change, so about 2.5 hours, but a little more than 2.5 hours. Okay, so 2.5, if it was exactly 2.5, right, it would be 2.5 hours. Okay, so basically 2 hours and change. Okay, so that's how we get the 2 hours there. Okay, it's the whole number part of your answer. All right, so let's go to subtract the 2 from that, and we get 0.5333 with the 3's repeating. Okay, so you do not run around that decimal. Okay, you want to leave it as it is. All right, so then to figure out the number of minutes in 0.53333 hours, right, multiply that by 60. Okay, then you get 32. Right, so that's how you can figure out that 152 minutes is equal to 2 hours and 32 minutes.